Good morning, and welcome to the Pumped on Property Show. Now, you've just got Ben here today. Feeling very Olympic today, feeling very good actually. I've just come off an amazing weekend where yesterday I caught up with about 7 or 8 of my mates yesterday, Arvo, and did an epic workout and then had a spa and a sauna. Last week of 2018 right now as well, so got a huge Christmas party organised at the end of week. With obviously all the staff as well as all of our mates. There should end up being about 30 of us down there, which is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Come off the back of an awesome walk this morning as well with the family, so just went down to the park and went down to the beach and had a bit of a look around the rock pools, and on my way in the car to work now. So today's episode, I wanted to talk to something that just came to me literally as I hopped in the car this morning, and that is this concept of, do I invest or do I not invest? That is the question that so many of us have on our minds. And I kind of wanted to talk about it in a different way than I suppose a lot of other people would have talked about it. I want to talk about my story at some point in terms of why I invest. I want to talk in relation to the average Australian and where somebody that just does a couple of investments versus no investment ends up over the course of their lifetime. I also want to talk about some of the positives as well as some of the risks associated with investing as well, and just talk about the story of my 2 grandmas as well. One of them's Oma, who's Dutch, and the other one was Grandma. So bit of a backwards podcast. Hopefully should be with you guys for the next 30 to 40 minutes type thing. So let's get stuck into it. Now, investing isn't for everyone, and that's clear because unfortunately most people don't achieve financial freedom over the course of their lifetime. So investing is tricky, it's uncomfortable, it's stressful. It requires us to get out of our comfort zone, get out of what we know, and learn a new set of skills, educate ourselves, and step into a marketplace effectively where we have no control over it. And I suppose that's the scariest thing about investing for most people. For most people that don't take on any risk in their lifetime, or don't invest, or just sort of sit on the sidelines and work a job that they may or may not like, and have an average life and an average lifestyle because that's income dependent. The fact that you can't control investing, the fact that if you're in the stock market, for example, markets go up and down. If you're in the property market, markets go up and down. If you're in crypto, markets go fucking up and down real quick, as all of my friends and you guys that are listening to this know. Regardless of the asset class that you're in, property prices, share prices, gold prices, stock prices, oil prices, they go up and down. They are sporadic. And for people that don't understand timing or cycles, or even those people that do, investing can teach you a lot of hard lessons. So I think there's a lot of reasons why people don't invest in anything, but the number one reason I think comes back to control and fear. And you could call that fear analysis paralysis. You could call it no network, limited social support, no team of advisors, no mentor, no coach. You could call it information overload or lack of market knowledge. You could call it no team of advisors. You could call it no investment strategy, no plan for your future. But all of those are just excuses. The reality is, people that don't invest are scared of investing because they either don't understand it, or they buy the hype, or they've talked to other people in the past that have had poor investments or been burnt. Obviously anybody that bought cryptocurrency in the last year would feel that pain. Going from $26,000 down to $5,000 is a pretty big burn in a year. Depending on when you buy investments and when you're in the marketplace is effectively the story of whether people absolutely love it or absolutely hate it. So I completely get all of the reasons after speaking to 6,000 investors that people don't take any action. But I think the thing that I wanted to make clear in this podcast or this video is what your life will look like if you don't take action over time. Now, almost everybody has a friend that's really unhealthy and really overweight or really stressed out. And if you've known that person for a long period of time, like I can think of a bunch of my friends who are in this position now. I'm 33, and you know, at 20 years of age, their lifestyle choices weren't having a huge impact on their health because they were still doing fun stuff, they were still doing active stuff, or they were being dragged into active stuff. You know, no matter how much shit they ate or how many drinks they had on the weekend or midweek, you know, their metabolism sort of burnt it off, and their healthy, active lifestyle with their friends burnt it off. But now my mates are 30, you know, I can see the impact of the ones over the last 10 years that have been looking after themselves a bit, and the ones over the last 10 years that have been just trashing themselves, and that, you know, they're starting to look older, they're starting to put on some extra weight, they're starting to move differently, they've got no mobility anymore. Their motivation, I think, has waned a little bit. I look at my friends that are the unhealthiest, they're also the ones that aren't moving forward in their lives in many different ways as well. You know, I look at Lisa's parents and my parents, and my dad is 63. He trains basically every day. He eats well. You know, he doesn't drink too much, or as he says, he drinks light beers, which is almost not like drinking at all. He still has 6 beers on a Saturday or a Sunday, but he thinks it's not drinking. You know, and then I look at Lisa's dad, who's a bit older, just turned 60 type thing, smoker, eats shit, doesn't do any exercise at all, and the way that he moves compared to the way that my dad moves, and the way that he looks at life compared to the way that my dad looks at life, it's just insane. Like, you'd think one of them was 90 and one of them was 40. Like, it's incredible. And why I wanted to bring up this analogy or this idea is almost all of us can relate to that, but for some reason we can't connect the same dots in our financial life. But you not taking action in the short term doesn't have a meaningful effect on your life at 20 years of age, because when you're 20, you know, no one around you is doing very well financially. Most people are at uni or TAFE or doing trades or working, you know, building the start of their career. And so, you know, not too many of your friends are making more than 100k per year type thing. But what I can see now in terms of my life versus some of my friends' lives, like, I've got a couple of friends now who are completely financially free. I've got a couple that have done that through shares. I've got a couple that have done it through businesses. I've got a couple that have done it through property development. I've got some friends that have done it through cryptocurrency. In fact, out of like the 20 closest friends in my life, 10 of them that I grew up with, I'd say at least 5 or 6 of them are now financially free at the same age of me. And we never talk about money, we never talk about what we're doing, but I think, you know, all of us just had this motivation to get our shit together early. And I think because we were all doing stuff, I think that was just the culture. Unconsciously, we all got to the same point in completely different ways. But, you know, it's kind of this compound effect idea where you don't see the effect of you not investing now, but I see the effect of you not taking action now, because I've spoke to so many people for so many years. I see the effect of a 30-year-old that didn't do anything in their 20s from a savings or an investment perspective. I see the effect of a 50-year-old that hasn't done anything until they're 50. And the problem with a 50-year-old is it's not just a whole series of new habits that need to be created, like savings, like not spending, but it's also a whole set of skills and values that completely challenge the way that they live. And so if you're 50 and you're just getting started now, not only do you have to overcome this concept of, you know, you haven't saved your entire life, you haven't invested your money, you've been out of the marketplace for 50 years, so it's this whole new confronting thing. Not only that, but when you're 50 and you're just getting started, you've got to confront all of the bullshit stories that you've told yourself over your lifetime as to why you didn't invest or why you couldn't invest, or, you know, you've got to overcome all of that personality stuff, which is just so much more rigorous and structured. Like, the funnest clients that we work with are the 20 and 30-year-olds that just completely get that they have to take action and they're still open to learning new things. Where a broke 50-year-old obviously knows it all, and that's obviously why they're still in that position. So, that's being brutal, as I always am, but the reality is, I don't think anyone else is saying this stuff. I don't think anyone's calling it for what it is. And I think the longer you put off investing, not only the longer you have to work in a job that you may or may not like, the longer you have to spend time away from your children doing a job, the more days, the more weeks, the more years you have to spend doing stuff that might not actually be in line with what your true purpose for your life is. The less cool trips you can do, the less travel you can do, the less flexibility you have. And just like I think it's super important as somebody who looks after themselves physically to move well, I think, like Bruce Lee said it best, your mind should be like water, because water allows you to flow. And I've learned this over the last year from my psychologist, Zach, where we talk about the mind being like the body. I truly value someone's body that moves well. But he's like, how are you allowing your mind to move the same way, Ben? How are you being flexible in your approach to your life? How are you learning and growing and applying that information, but not in a way that stresses yourself out? And, when you hear things that you don't like to hear, how are you addressing those in the moment rather than allowing them to compound and, build over time? So I think it's really, really important to acknowledge that if you're just getting started, that's cool. There's going to be a whole lot of stress and fear and challenges. If you're not currently financially free, I know that, getting started was hard, but I think not being financially free for me was harder because I could see where I wanted to be. I'd taken the first steps, but the results hadn't actually presented themselves in my life yet. And I was frustrated as hell because of that. I wanted it so badly and so quickly because I wanted choices in my life. But the reality is it's taken me 10 years and I'm still not even close to where I want to be. Over the last year I've learned to accept that a little bit more. But for literally 6 to 7 years, I was just pushing a square peg down a round hole type thing, like trying to jam it in there and trying to make stuff happen as quickly as I could. And that created anxiety and stresses that we all feel as investors who are looking to, achieve something that maybe we weren't born, or brought up with, if you know what I mean. So yeah, like if you're just getting started, it's going to take some new knowledge, some new skills, but it's also exciting because you haven't made poor mistakes, so you've got a blank canvas. And if you're already halfway on your way, then just recognize it's going to be frustrating and it's probably going to take longer than you expect it to. That's completely okay as well. Like financial freedom, unless you've got a business, realistically takes 10, 15 years to achieve in a way that nobody can take it away from you, and it doesn't really matter what's going on with the rest of the world again in the future. So from an investment perspective, the whole thing that I just spoke about then, I suppose, was relating to choices. We all have choices in our lives, and I see the day-to-day compounding effect, or week-to-week or year-to-year compounding effect of the choices that you're making right now in your life, the choices our clients are making, the choices that I'm making, because I can now connect the dots like, those friends that you've got or those family members you've got that you've seen over a 10 or 15 or 20 year period just progressively get more unhealthy. You've got to start to think of your financial life in the same way. And the cool thing about your health, like your financial health, is you can immediately turn it around anytime you decide to. Any day you decide to start sitting down and creating a plan for your future, or educating yourself on your future, or connecting the dots and actually starting to save or starting to cut down the costs in your life, both fixed and discretionary or flexible costs in your life, you start, like when you show up to the gym or when you start eating better, to build momentum, and those choices compound over time until you get to the point where you want to be. And that's such an exciting thing. Like, that's the most exciting part of life, realizing that you can completely change where you end up. And as Jim Rohn, one of the guys that I listen to and always mention, says it best. He says, we cannot control the blowing of the wind, but we can control the set of the sails. And so many investors or Australians just drift through life, letting the wind blow them here, there, as opposed to going, this is where I'd like to end up. And obviously I can't control where the wind blows, but what I can do is use the sails on my boat to tic-tac my way to where I want to be. And I think that is what we can control as investors, because you're never going to be able to control the market. You're never going to be able to time it perfectly. You're never going to be able to control your fear or the way that you feel about certain things at different times, although you can learn to handle that a lot better. But what you can control is having a goal right now, today, of within 15 years from today, you want to replace your income completely with a passive income through some form of investment source. Now, it could be business, it could be property, it could be shares. I obviously like property and business just because they make sense to me. But, you know, some of my friends have a huge preference towards shares. So that's kind of that. The other thing I wanted to touch base on from a investment or not to invest perspective is this concept of just sort of painting a bit of a picture of, you know, where you might end up in the future if you do take some action versus where you might end up in the future if you don't. Now, I was reading some stuff from the Barefoot Investor on his blog in the last couple of weeks, just to, you know, I really respect the guy and like I really like the way that he writes more than the actual content that I was reading. And he was sort of talking about this concept of where you could end up in 5 years' time. And where you could end up in 5 years' time, like you could dramatically or completely change your entire life. Like he said that you could, you know, save a deposit for your dream home in 5 years, that you could completely retrain yourself and be working in your dream job in 5 years' time, that you could be contributing a huge amount of money to super. Obviously, he's a financial planner, and in 5 years' time be in a much better financial position there. That you could go out and buy some investment properties and set up your foundation so that in the future you're free, or that you could pay off a huge amount of debt off your own home and, you know, save yourself 10 or 15 years of the life of the loan. And it got me thinking about this concept of investing, because a lot of us think very, very much short term. We look at what happened in the last 12 months and we look at what might happen in the next week, month, you know, year type thing, and that's the time frames that we live on. But as investors, or the successful investors that I know, they're always looking at 10, 15, 20 years into the future, like where will I be at this point versus not at this point. And so this is the concept or story that I was thinking of my two grandmas, or my Oma, my Dutch grandma, and my grandma, my Australian one. And neither of them were investors over the course of their lifetime. My Australian grandma's husband died when my dad was 5, and she never remarried, and she never obviously was in a financial position looking after 8 kids to be able to buy any sort of property at all. And she lived till she was 97 years of age. She was an absolute legend, like hard woman type thing. Obviously raising all those kids must have been fucking tough for her. But she ended up in a home, and not the nice sort of home, living off the pension, or effectively having the kids before she went into full-time care, actually paying for her accommodation. And she was fortunate enough to have kids that went off and did well, and all of them sort of kicked in a little bit each week to help her out. But the reality is, you know, she had to live off that pension in retirement, and after the cost of her full-time care, there wasn't much left over. And the quality of her life because of that, like, she was a very active, very intelligent person, and she fucking hated it at the end. Like, you know, she was just stuck in this environment where she didn't want to be. My other Oma, or Dutch grandma, literally just did one thing, and that was my grandpa and her bought a property on the northern beaches in DY at the top of the hill there, just up near Brookvale Oval, the Manly Sea Eagles Oval. And she bought that one property, nice big 600 square metre block, and I think they bought that for $2,500 or $3,000. You know, they turned it into an absolutely beautiful home, but it was only ever a 2-bedroom home. Now my grandma, or my Oma, She's 87 now, and she's got pretty chronic dementia, and she's just had to go into full-time care because she kept hurting herself and not knowing where she was and stuff. And she's gone into full-time care. She sold that one property that she bought for $4,000 for $1.6 million as a knockdown. It's literally a knockdown because she hasn't been able to maintain the home for the last 15 years. So now she's in a position where she's in this full-time care where she lives in this specialist dementia home. There's 4 other ladies living with her. They've got 1, if not 2 staff members each. It's bloody expensive, but she's got this incredible life where they've got this garden bed which she loves. There's a little dog that lives in the house. All of the full-time staff are just beautiful people, and it's this completely different experience. Not that she really knows where she is right now. She's got pretty late stage dementia, but it's comfortable and she's got choices. Now that's, just making one smart decision a long time ago. And I remember her telling me the story when she bought the property. She thought it was so expensive and so overvalued, and she never knew how they were going to own it outright, and it was very, very scary to them to buy and build a home. But she took that plunge. Now, one of my favorite things to do is look at, where we could be in the future. Like, I love looking at compound growth calculators. You can just jump onto Google and Google that compound growth calculator, and what you can do is, let's say that you bought nothing. You're going to end up with a big fat nothing. That's the thing about doing nothing, is you end up in the exact same position you are now. So instead of working 15 years, you end up working 30 or 40 or 50 years. Instead of ending up financially free with property or shares or super, you end up on the pension, thinking about every single dollar that you spend. And the cool thing about these compound growth calculators is if you just own your own home right now, or own one investment property that's worth 500k, you can just put it in the compound growth calculator, and you can be very conservative, and you can say, hey, what would the $500,000 be worth if it grew by 4% per year for the next 15 years or the next 30 years? And it'll tell you exactly what your position will be. And I did this for a friend of mine who owns a really successful business down in Sydney. He's been buying property over the last 7 years. He's bought 4 homes in Sydney now. He's got a couple of units, and he's got a house that's also got like another like a duplex next to it. And we worked out, for me the other day, he said, Ben, where will I be in 15, 30, 45 years from now? Because he's a long-term thinker. He's only 33 years of age now. And I worked out by the time he's 60 years of age, if he does nothing else, the value of his properties will be worth just under $20 million. And that's not being crazy. That was just working out an average annual increase of 5% per year for him for the next 37 odd years type thing. And he was just blown away, because how much pressure does that take off him now? He's already doing a job that he loves. He's already got ownership or a profit share in that business that he works in, and he's going to be worth almost $20 million without doing anything else at that time in the future. And that's just such an amazing thing to know, because it gives you the confidence to take action today, but to take action without putting pressure on yourself about where you're going to end up, because he knows he's already going to be financially free. Now, that's not including the passive income that portfolio would give him. If he was to own all 4 of those houses or units outright within the next 15 years, we worked out he'd be getting over $3,000 a week of passive income for life as well. And he's diligent, and he's working on paying off the debt first on his own home, and then after he pays off the debt on that, he'll smash the debt on the other properties. So, you jump on one of these compound growth calculators and have a bit of a play of where you could be. And that's always inspiring, because you don't have to get these amazing 7 or 10% returns every year like a lot of people talk about. Your property prices don't have to double in value every 7 to 10 years anymore. You can just get consistent long-term returns. And my brother sent me this text message a week and a half ago. I'm sure you guys have seen this sort of stuff before, and Simon was saying in this text that was from Gary Vee, it was based on someone, buying shares and starting when they were 20 years of age and just contributing $100 a week versus someone that contributes a huge amount more, I think $400 a week starting at 35. And that person that started earlier, putting in the $100 a week with the effective compound growth and an average return in the S&P 500 of 7% a year, by the age they're 60, the difference was literally $500,000 in terms of the net position of where they'd both end up. And I'm sorry, I'm driving, I can't pull up the text in terms of the actual figures, but again, it was just this concept of starting small and starting where you are, being consistent over time, and just thinking of it as a long-term thing. Like, if you're putting money into stocks or crypto or property or businesses, don't expect anything for the long term, and always expect the next 12 months or 5 years to be absolutely shithouse, because sometimes the next 12 months or 5 years can be shithouse. But I'm sure, like my grandma and grandpa, or my Oma and Opa that thought it was expensive at the time, are very, very happy that they took that action now. Now, I want to talk about me a little bit now, because I'm in the car on my own. I think I can do that. I started investing, if I'm truly being honest with you guys, I originally started investing when I was 24 years of age after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, because I wanted to be financially free and I wanted to have choices in my life that I have now at age 33. But more than that, I think, realistically looking back, I think I just wanted to prove to other people that I was valuable and that I was worth something, and that, I thought if I was rich or wealthy or successful, that I would get that respect that I was looking for in my life. And that's just being really honest with you guys and really vulnerable. But, if I look back now, at 24 years of age, as much as I thought I was the absolute king shit at that time in my life, it was all surface level ego stuff. It actually wasn't true confidence that you get from finding yourself and working through the challenges and working through your anxieties or your fears and all of that stuff that you have to go through as you get older, or that the people that I hang out with go through, because they are trying to become better and they're trying to become more full human beings. And so I think I was motivated to become a millionaire at first. That was my very first goal. But then I realized, becoming a millionaire is quite easy. It's not hard to have $1 million worth of property, if you know what I mean. If you bought anything in Sydney 7 years ago, or a couple of properties, then you'd be a millionaire now on paper without really doing too much. $1 million certainly isn't what it used to be. And I wanted to become a millionaire. I don't even know why. I just thought it was a nice number to work towards. But then what I discovered, once I discovered this idea of passive income, I think I just wanted a passive income source, because I didn't really know why. I just thought it would be nice to have income coming in that I didn't have to work for. And once I started to go down that journey, so from 24 years of age until 33 now, I'm turning 34 next year, the compounding effect of education over time is so powerful. Like Robert Kiyosaki's book made me realize that it was possible. The action that I've taken and the experience that I've had has shown me that it is absolutely achievable. The experiences where I've fucked it up in a big way, like where I've lost money or made bad investment decisions or just made the wrong career decisions, has taught me to be patient. And I think more than anything else, I've been lucky enough to talk to 6,000 investors from around Australia and over the world over the last 5 years now, and that is just every single day a shot in the arm of, looking at someone who's really, really successful and really set up. Like a bunch of our clients are already financially free. They come to us because they just want help entering the Brisbane market and buying the right property up here. And a bunch of people come to us that have, just got started or just getting started. And, I look at these people's decisions and actions and savings patterns and investment decisions that they've made over time, and I can just see very, very, very clearly, what the last 10 years of their life has looked like, what the last 12 months of their lives look like, and it's given me this glimpse into what financial freedom actually looks like in terms of the mindset, the values, the beliefs, the daily habits, the weekly rituals, the monthly action, versus people that, just live in the wind, as I talked about before, and just get blown here, there, and everywhere, or never really get their stuff together and never really get into it. So it's been really powerful, and I'm so grateful for that. Obviously, from buying as much property that we bought for ourselves and our clients as well, you start to see the impact over time of different decisions and compare one versus another and different asset classes from talking to my friends, and you start to sort of see where all the chips lie over time as well, which is the cool thing about being 30 and not being 20, is, that compound effect of good decisions is taking shape. So I initially started to invest because I think I was looking for confidence and I was looking for value in my life. I think I also wanted financial freedom. I now invest because I want choices in my life. I look at my grandma and my Oma, and I know that I want choices in my old age. I want security at that time in my life. I want the choice to live without fear. Like so many people that aren't financially free that I meet, as much as they might put on a front, are just scared shitless all the fucking time. Like they're scared of the costs in their life increasing. They're scared of their energy bill increasing. They're scared of losing their job. They're scared of buying anything because of not having that money in the bank. They're scared of going on the holidays that they want to live. They're scared of starting a business because they don't have a passive income source, which means if they fail, they'd be a failure. They're scared of changing industries. They're scared of changing jobs. They're scared of working less. They're scared of saying what they really want to say or being who they really are in their life, because if they do, they might get fired, and if they get fired, then they've got no money in the bank. And like a big part of this whole journey for me has been about overcoming my fear. And of course, like I still feel fear. Like when I see a news article saying that the Australian property market's going to crash, or the world economy looks fucked up and all the businesses are going to fail, or something like that can be very scary. Or so fear's a big motivator for a lot of us, to sort of get our shit together, or it definitely has been for me. And it's also been my biggest motivator to overcome that and just, truly be myself as well. I've just wanted choices now that I've got 3 children that are all, 1 year, 4 year, and 6 years of age right now at the time of recording this. I'm shit scared that I'm not going to be able to spend time with them growing up, and I think I was acutely aware of that from the time I had Summer 6 years ago, and that was really when I started to ramp it up in a big way and started, buying better properties and really learning this stuff and starting better businesses to be able to set myself up. And I'm so scared of not being able to spend that time with them when that time is so meaningful right now. That petrified me. Growing up with a dad who worked 60, 70 hours a week, and that wasn't around too much, that always did a lot of stuff outside of work as well. I was shit scared for a long time of being like that, and I thought if I had financial freedom, I wouldn't have to work as hard, and I don't. Like, I work 4 days a week now. I take Fridays off. I drop my kids to school every day, or daycare, and I get to spend a lot of time with them, and I choose that because that's such an important value to me. So that was another motivator. Another motivator for me is just, I hate the concept of being broke. Like, I was at university for 4 years living out of home from 20 to 24. I lived off literally just over $200 a week for that period of time. Had no money left over to do any of the things that I wanted to do. Always had a sick time, but I just didn't like it. Like, I grew up in a household without much money, and I didn't want that either. Like, I didn't want to be having fights with my wife about money when the kids were around and giving them a bad concept of money or bad, thoughts and beliefs at a young age around what money is, or money being bad, or any of that other stuff that you or I might have grown up with. I love the idea that at 40 years of age, working ever again for me and my wife will be a complete choice. I love that from 30 years of age, the work that we do has been our choice, and we can actually explore our passions and follow our purpose. So I think what I'm trying to say is that, there's a really strong business case for investing if you just want to make money. Like, if you just want to drive nice cars, live in your dream home, travel, and not give a fuck about anything, then invest because you're not going to do it from saving your way to that lifestyle or spending your way there from earning more and more money. That's one side of the coin, which I was originally motivated by when I was young. But now that I've got it a bit more mature and I understand what I really want and what my true values are, I think just having those choices in your life, whether that's now or in the future, like, investing has given me so much confidence around knowing where I'm going, having a reason to run businesses or for going to work when you have those hard days, knowing that there's a reason for those hard days, knowing that there is always a light at the end of the tunnel because you will be financially free in the future if you buy the right assets at the right time. Knowing that once you've set up a foundation for the future, you can take the pressure off yourself and do what it is that you really want to be doing at that time in your life when you want to be doing it. Like, just because I say it takes 15 years to become financially free doesn't mean that you have to spend the next 15 years grinding or working in a job you hate, or not spending time with your family, or not traveling and not doing what you want to do from a material perspective or buying stuff perspective. It's generally just a few hard focused years at the start to go out and buy those initial properties, or start that initial business, or buy those initial shares. And after that, a lot of it's just maintenance. A lot of it's, allowing time to do its thing and allowing those returns to compound so that you get to where you want to be. So I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel, whether you're listening to it on Apple or Android. If you haven't already done so, please check us out on Facebook and Instagram, Pumped on Property, and check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe to that one as well, Pumped on Property. Now, if you've got a podcast you'd love me to do, please hit us up in the comments section of wherever you're listening to this. I'd love the opportunity to learn more about what it is that you'd like me to be talking about. If you've got specific questions around investing or property, I'd love to talk about that with you as well. I hope you have a great Christmas break if you're listening to this year. If you're listening to this in the future, I hope you're killing it, and I hope my approach is okay for you. And if it's not, go listen to someone else's stuff. There's some amazing stuff out there. Cheers, guys. Have a great day. Bye.